Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to address the current status of the investigation regarding Thomas Crooks and his attempted assassination of the former president and likely future president Donald J. Trump. There's a few things I want to talk about. The main one being the water tower. People thinking they saw a shooter from up there. I can pretty much guarantee you it's just the sun glare. I'll explain when I get to the video. But you can see this is a really good point right here. Local law enforcement says Secret Service is throwing them under the bus, and it wouldn't surprise any of us based on how Secret Service has been the past 3 or 4 days since this event happened. A total mess. They've lied blatantly 5 times. The director there will not resign. But the local law there in Butler, Pennsylvania now is claiming that the Secret Service visited the rally location 1 month before and told them exactly what to do. And that makes perfect sense. This is a rural town. I mean, I've looked at it. Google Maps done the whole thing with Butler and the township. The actual rally grounds were in like a city over, but it was within Butler Township. And there's this town, and it's surrounded by terrain and vegetation, bunch of trees. It's a rural area. So obviously this is a huge thing for the police force there. It's all hands on deck. We're more of a rural place. Now we're getting the former president of the United States, who's currently leading in all the polls, possibly future president. We got to be on our A game. At the surface, you could kind of believe Secret Service, and it's like, it's a rural town. They don't have the best police. But now as you start digging into it, this seems like a huge breakdown by the Secret Service, and it almost seems too ridiculous. Just like the sniper, the elite expert on CNN saying that, look, I would say this is a breakdown, this is miscommunication, but it's so bad, it's like unbelievable that something like this could happen. And I know there's a lot of things behind the scenes. Did Trump have proper Secret Service? Were they maybe down in numbers and there was more local police here? But listen, this is all going to have to be pieced together. But the things that we're hearing, that there were literal police officers in the same building that Thomas Crooks was crawling across to shoot Trump. If that's actually true, that's one of the craziest things you'll hear when it comes to a presidential potential assassination. A source who spoke with the Daily Mail was furious over claims that they were responsible for the area outside the perimeter. The Secret Service came out here more than a month ahead of time and met with local agencies. They tell us exactly what to do, exactly where they want us, and exactly how they want it. It's all on them. So it does make complete sense that, they would be totally understanding. This is Donald Trump coming into, a rural town. All the police there, it's all hands on deck. They have to be ready for it. But I just thought that was interesting, and it does seem like that is the likely scenario. This is another funny thing. So they added this little, to the hashtag MAGA. They've got Trump with the American flag in the background, kind of like a little emoji. Imagine Twitter 1.0 doing this. I joked that Twitter 1.0 wouldn't even allow you to post that photo of Trump getting up. It would be like, oh, this is, you can't post it. Remember, that's what they're doing. It was reported that there were Democrats internally saying, don't share the photo of Trump with his fist up with the American flag in the background and bleeding and the blue sky behind it with no clouds. It's just an epic photo. They're so jealous of it. They were saying, don't share it. It's propaganda. No, that's just what happened. And so, obviously it's one of the most epic photos in U.S. Presidential history, I think. We've also got, I'm going to go down. Here's an interesting timeline according to sources. This is at 5:10 p.m. Crooks was first identified as a person of interest. So there were some rumors. I saw it somewhere that 3 hours before Crooks was around the rally, and then 2 hours later, evidently at 5:10, he was identified. That's an hour before he fired his first shots at 6:12. But 20 minutes after 5:10 at 5:30, Crooks was spotted with a rangefinder. So they already identified him as a person of interest. Now, what does that mean? How was he acting weird, possibly at the entrance? I don't know. But then he brings out the rangefinder after already being identified. At that point, there would have to be, you would figure, some type of confrontation or some type of red alert. What, this kid has already been identified. What the hell is he doing with a rangefinder? He's like 120 pounds. This is very strange. 2 minutes later, he was spotted on the roof by Secret Service. So the kid's a person of interest. 20 minutes later, he has a rangefinder. And then 2 minutes after that, this is apparently when he locked scopes with his rangefinder with the Secret Service. And at that point, it's like, get this kid off of there. You need to question him. I mean, do something. This is ridiculous. He's on the roof. That should be a secure place. It is unbelievable. And then you can see at 6:02, it happened very early in Trump's rally. 6:02, that's 10 minutes after he was seen on the roof. Trump takes the stage. Now, what happened in these 20 minutes before he was, spotted on the roof versus the first shots, I would imagine he was kind of setting things up to see where he was going to lay. And then possibly, not having his AR at this point at 5:52. If he had his AR then, they would for sure be able to tell Trump, don't go out there. But the fact that he didn't have his AR, probably just his rangefinder to try and set up the shot, he gets off of the roof probably sometime in between 5:52 and 6 o'clock. And then wherever he was hiding his gun, whether it's the car, putting it somewhere, he already has the ladder set up at that point. And, obviously he gets on the roof. It's like a 3-minute time frame, 4-minute window. He's on the roof. He's crawling around, army crawling on the back end of the slope to try and hide from the Secret Service counter snipers. And they let him set up. And it was like, I mean, you had Trump supporters calling saying he's on the roof for a minute before he actually shot. So it was clear he was setting up and trying to get the perfect shot onto Trump. And he really did get a good shot. Let's be honest. I mean, he was very close. Trump got very, very lucky in terms of that. But this is what I wanted to talk about. Trump assassination attempt, multiple eyewitnesses report suggest a second shooter. Now, the whole narrative of a second shooter, I think a lot of people want to believe it because of JFK. That's just my personal opinion. It's another second shooter situation. Footage has now emerged from an audience member who spotted someone firing. And apparently, when you look at this, you can see after the shooting, there's the water tower, and supposedly that's supposed to be someone. You see the black thing right there. Like, is that someone right after the shots were fired? I believe that is glare from the sun. That would be a crazy position. Imagine if they had sniped Trump from a freaking water tower, like laying on the water tower. I mean, that would make a lot more sense in terms of, based on where those trees are, and the counter snipers, I wonder if they were watching the water tower. You'd have to think they would be, but we thought they would be watching the roof. And I guess they were watching the roof. They spotted the kid, but they didn't do anything, which is just remarkable. It's like, kid, I mean, what are you doing here? Why are you on the roof? Donald Trump's about to speak. You can't be up here. This is a secured area. That's all you have to tell the kid, and then make sure you watch him. I mean, obviously, he somehow was able to get a gun. Maybe he hid the gun right next to his little ladder, the walk-up, somehow concealed it. That's another thing that's going to have to be explained. How did he get the gun from his car to the roof? Did he do it by stages? Did he conceal it and then hide it in an area right next to the ladder? And then when he was ready to go, just took it and walked up the ladder? Could that have been something that happened? The situation just reeks. I mean, the idea that this kid, and I know it's come out that, he had no social media. We got to get something. People are saying maybe Signal is what he used to communicate. I don't know. This seems like maybe a 4chan or an 8chan thing where this kid kind of gets manipulated a little bit. We've seen it a lot, and it becomes kind of you've got to do this, man, for the country's sake. And just the timing right before the RNC. I said this yesterday, Trump is the most important political figure right now in the United States by far. It is not close. It's not Biden. Biden's already a lame duck. Biden's about to leave in like 3 days. He's hiding at his beach house right now after the COVID. He has COVID now apparently after the test. But when it comes to this situation, I do not believe that. It's just not a second shooter. The dude kind of fumbles the camera a little bit. I think it causes the glare onto the top of that water tower. And also, what about, you would see the muzzle of the shots as well. So, that, unless maybe he didn't shoot from up there, but no, I don't think that's a second shooter. Also, they would probably be able to hear where the fire was coming from. It was 3 shots very quickly, all from the same area. And I know the eyewitnesses are like, there's shots coming from all over the place. People always say that because it's such a hectic situation. And technically there were shots coming from all over the place because the counter snipers, and by the way, that's another thing, the main counter snipers apparently did not kill Crooks. It was the ones behind them. There were 2 set up. They were both on building rooftops that had slopes. Oh my God. And so the ones behind him actually were the ones that supposedly killed Crooks. Not that it matters a ton, and this will all be confirmed, I'm sure, but I did want to talk about that. situation. And then we do have the Donald Trump. Right now, they're saying an hour-long speech tonight. Pretty typical RNC. When will that begin? Probably 10 o'clock. I might decide to live stream the speech with my live reaction, or I'll just go on after and talk about the speech. It's going to be about unity. He's barely going to mention Biden for a number of reasons. First of all, he's going to try and bring everyone down. This is Trump's, this is like his baptism to becoming like an American superstar after what happened. And now everyone feels bad for him, and he's up by so much in all the polls. And I think his likability, his favorability is going to be, he goes into the White House now with this situation. There's going to be a long leash for Trump. I mean, we've already seen them try and destroy that leash. They put out a Trump Hitler ad 2 days after the assassination attempt, when we're just like, well, you've called him Hitler. What do you expect? And then they blame Trump for the rhetoric. And then they say, well, it was a Republican that tried to kill Trump. No, you're right. A big-time Trump supporter tried to murder Trump. That makes total sense. With Trump up in all the polls, he's about to go back into the White House. You're right. Oh, he was disenfranchised. Yeah, meanwhile, Trump's like a hero to Republicans. But no, it's obviously totally ridiculous. No, they've got this kid. Notice how they're reporting on this kid like he's a weirdo. Oh, he just hates all politicians. He donates to a leftist cause, but he's a registered Republican. So we can't really hit them with the ultimate leverage where, like, imagine if this was an Antifa nut or something like that, we could really go hard. But they're trying to no, he just hated everyone, and he might have been a Republican. You don't know. So it's like, I mean, obviously it's still ridiculous that this happened, and it is their rhetoric. They're the ones that called him Hitler. And then we're like, no, duh, obviously Trump's going to get shot at. And the problem is, and this is another thing that people are, people are getting fired from their jobs for saying stuff about Trump. I think it's bad. I agree. I think that's enough, because there's rhetoric that people say, right-wing people, we don't want to do that and cancel people, but this is a different situation. The left will cancel you for a slur. This is a situation where it's not only that these people wish that Trump died, a lot of them are saying, don't worry, that was just an attempt. It's actually going to happen soon. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That rhetoric in the United States, and then people try and defend that and say, well, it's cancel culture. Well, no, they're saying that, all right, I endorse Trump being assassinated. They didn't get him, but I'm sure there's going to be more attempts in the future. That type of stuff cannot happen. And this was a whole thing 2 weeks ago, and I made a video like 3 weeks ago about the Secret Service going to someone's house because on Reddit they were talking about how they needed to kill Trump. So this has all come out now, and Trump's giving his speech. It's going to be about unity. It's going to be an hour long, the first time he's officially speaking since the assassination attempt, closing out the RNC, the grand finale, and then it all turns to Biden and the Democrats and just their total incompetence. Do they move on from the mess that is Joe Biden? It seems like they're trying to move on. They're trying to put him as much pressure as possible. And now Biden is kind of wiggling a little bit, saying, all right, I'll consider it. The question is, if he is back at his beach house, is Hunter there? Is Jill there? Can they try and convince him? They're bringing out the big guns with Obama, Schumer now putting pressure, Nancy Pelosi putting pressure. Is this going to be finally enough where they can switch to Kamala? I don't think it matters either way. I think they need some type of Hail Mary open convention where they elect someone else. But even that is just so anti-democratic. They're screwed because of both of their choices, Biden and Kamala being so unlikable. And also just what's happened with Trump. It's amazing. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.